practical issues. To which invoices and debit credit notes will it be applicable? Basically, we have two types of invoices, as you're aware: simplified tax invoices and the tax invoices, and the associated debit and credit notes. Obviously, this e-invoice will be applicable to both these invoices and the associated debit credit notes. Then it will be applicable to all taxable persons resident in the kingdom, irrespective of turnover, and also to third parties that issue tax invoices on behalf of the above, that is a resident taxable person. Non-resident taxpayers are excluded from this requirement. Again, applicability, let us see more. It is applicable to all taxable supplies, whether of standard rate or zero rate tax, and also to residents and to supplies made, taxable supplies made to residents as well as non-residents. Even for exports, invoicing is applicable. So in what cases invoicing is not applicable? Let us see. To exempt supplies, in case of import of goods or services, and supplies subject to reverse charge mechanism. In all these cases, invoicing is not applicable. And obviously, there's a phased implementation, and the timelines are as follows. In the generation phase, will be applicable with effect from 4th December 2021, and it will be applicable to all the taxpayers. No phased implementation here. So from 4th December 2021, we all have to be ready for the things which I'll tell you just now. And in the second phase, let me share the window again. Some window was coming there. I think that was creating some problem. You could not see properly. That is why. Yeah. So the second phase, which is the integration phase, will be applicable with effect from 1st January 2023. Again, not very far. And this will be implemented in waves by the target taxpayer groups. And for the first phase, just 59 days, not even 2 months remain now. So we better be prepared now. So what will happen in the first phase? What are the general requirements? Let us see. Invoice will contain additional fields such as a QR code, which is mandatory for simplified invoices. A generation of invoice in electronic format, no more paper invoices, no more PDF invoices, no more scan invoices, and storage of invoices in an electronic format. These are the general requirements for phase 1. And if we compare this to phase 2, again, some more additional fields like a cryptographic stamp on the e-invoice, generation of e-invoice in XML format, that is mandatory, and also upload of invoice at the Zatka portal. Here, integration with Zatka will happen, and upload of invoices will take place. And for the standard invoices, it will be a clearance model, and for simplified invoices, it will be a reporting model. You'll just now see what that means. And what will be the technical requirements? Technical requirements, what will be there? Let us see now. Basically, in the first phase or the generation phase, there will be a need to generate a QR code, and you have to generate it. Zatka will not be providing it. Your accounting software, your ERP, your point of sales machine that you are using on various stores, etc., that has to generate the QR code. And that is mandatory for simplified tax invoices. For other tax invoices, you may or may not use it. And also, these invoices will have to be stored in electronic format offline. Other requirements, they pertain to the second phase. And in the second phase, regarding QR code, it will be mandatory for all the invoices, whether simplified tax invoices or normal tax invoices. And also cryptographic stamp, hash, UUID, all these some technical terms are there. If time permits, we'll be talking about these in some details. But as of now, you may understand these technical things will have to be complied with in the second phase. And obviously, the solution that you'll use will be doing all this. This is something like driving a car. You don't need to know how the brake and or the accelerator functions. You just have to know how you can use the brake or the accelerator and all these things. So solution will be taking care of all the other things. And also a tamper-resistant counter should be there. We'll be talking about this again in detail. And invoices will have to be uploaded at the portal and stored in, again, electronic format, XML or PDF A3 with embedded XML. And then let us look in the other technical requirements of integration. Connectivity, I think it's not required in the first phase, though at some places they mentioned that internet connectivity is required. But in general, it is not required. Obviously, if the department Zatka wants you to upload those invoices, in that case, it will be required. And in the second phase, obviously, there should be an ability to establish encrypted and authenticated connection over the internet, such as lease line. Then integration in the first phase is not required. Obviously, in the second phase, it is required because invoices will have to be uploaded on at the Zatka portal. Invoice identifiers, what do we have to do with that? Let us see the phase 1, the invoice reference number or the invoice number in common parlance, that is required to be shown on the invoice. I think even in the VAT or the current regime, it is there. The invoice number or the invoice reference number is on the printout or PDF copy of the invoice, and that will be required in the phase 1 also and phase 2 also. In phase 2, certain additional things will be there, which I just now talked about. The universally unique invoice identifier or the UUID, which is a 128-bit number generated by an algorithm chosen to make it unlikely that the same identifier will be generated by anyone else. So it will be a unique number, 128-bit number, and previous invoice note hash, QR code, and invoice temper-resistant value. These are applicable to the phase 2. But on invoice printout or the PDF, all these are not required. Only the QR code is required. Now, what will the QR code for the invoice contain? Let us see. It will contain the name of the seller, the VAT registration number of the seller, date of invoice, that is the timestamp of invoice with date and time, the total e-invoice amount with VAT, and finally the VAT amount. This is for phase 1 for simplified invoice. And other things are not applicable in the first phase. In phase 2, for all the invoices, these requirements are. All these requirements which we can see here, all these are applicable, including the cryptographic stamp, hash of invoice XML, the public key used to generate cryptographic stamp, Zatka portal cryptographic stamp, etc. All these requirements are there in the phase 2. Let us see the process, how it happens. A very simple process if we want to understand. The supplier will generate, the supplier system will generate the invoice file in the electronic format. It will issue the invoice to the buyer. Initially, it can even be in the paper format or the PDF format. No issues. It's not necessary. But in the electronic format, it will be shared with the buyer. And it has to be stored in the electronic format. This we are talking about the standard invoice. In the phase 2, what will happen? The supplier will generate invoice in XML format and upload it on the Zatka platform in real time. And like this, platform will validate the invoice information. It will clear and digitally sign in real time. The supplier system will receive the validated and signed invoice back. Next, the supplier will share the invoice with the buyer. The buyer can verify the invoice clearance status on the platform by checking the digital signature or by scanning the QR code, which will be there on the invoice. So this is regarding the standard invoice in phase 1 and phase 2. And In a summary form, you can see in both the phases how standard invoice will function. Simplified invoice, similar process, you can see in the second phase. It will also have to be uploaded, and you can see in the case of generation phase, it is invoice generation, and in the second phase, it is reporting model. Because it is to be uploaded at the Zatka portal for the simplified invoice within 24 hours of generation. Now, some features or functions are not allowed. What are these? The phase 1, allowing uncontrolled access, tampering of e-invoice or the associated notes, allowing multiple invoice series. And in the phase 2, all these that we've talked about on the left-hand side. Additional to that, allowing export of the cryptographic stamping key, and allowing software time changes or allowing modification of timestamp value during issue of an e-invoice. All these are prohibited. What does that mean? Uncontrolled access means anonymous access. You cannot know who had accessed the system. Ability to operate with a default password, when that is not allowed. Or absence of user session management. Basically, these things are to be taken care of by the e-invoicing solution that you're going to use. You don't have to do anything about this. Then, tampering of e-invoice, again, the e-invoicing solution that you will use will ensure that it does not allow alteration or deletion of generated e-invoices, allow for log modification or deletion, or generated with inaccurate timestamps, or non-sequential log generation, or electronic invoice counter reset. All these things will amount to tampering of e-invoice, and that is not allowed. What will be the challenges in e-invoicing? Some people may be saying it's again some technological change, and not many issues are there. We'll handle it. But there are many challenges. Let us talk about those. First of all, validations. This change will bring a huge impact on the business operations and IT infrastructure. And if you obviously, you've been filing the VAT returns, and only summary information is going in the VAT return. So not much of a problem. But now there will be field level validation and in e-invoice. For each field, the format is specified. If it is not in that format, the file will be invalid. So not just the information, each and every piece of information has to be in the proper format. Other things, we also have to see the regarding solution, whether our ERP or the accounting package is ready with the necessary changes or will be ready well in time. It should not be that the accounting package or the ERP package is not ready by the time phase 1 starts or phase 2 starts, and we are not able to issue invoices. And if it is ready, then what is the cost, time, and effort of updation? The solution may be ready. The accounting package or the ERP package may be coming out with the solution, may be ready in time, or let's say even by the 4th of December. But what will be the cost? What will be the time spent in updating that? And what will be the effort in updation? We have to see that. We also have to see whether other integration solutions are available. In some big ERP packages, even the cost is very huge. Huge amount has to be paid. So we have to see whether other integration solutions are available and whether they are cost effective, whether they will take less time. So we have to see that also. Again, in many cases, in many stores, etc., point of sales machines are used, and there are various challenges regarding that also. Let us see what are these challenges. In most, the standard tax invoice cannot be printed because these are generally for B2C. But if a customer asks for the standard tax invoice, what will we do? Is our system ready for that? And for the QR code or whatever the additional requirements are there in the phase 1 or phase 2, it should not increase the customer's waiting time. He will get irritated when he's standing in the queue and the queue gets longer. So that should not happen. In generation of QR code, whether the system is capable of generating a proper QR code, which is in the normal, which is required TLV format, and it's not readable by the human eye. The barcode scanner or a QR code scanner is used for that. And most of the POS don't have the local archival facility, which is required as per ZACA. That the invoices have to be downloaded or exported in some XLS format or PDF format, and there should be a local archival. But in most cases, it's not available. So is the system ready for that? And reconciliation is going to be a big challenge. In India, we are already, for the last 3 years, it's been a huge task for people, and it will not be very different in KSA. Because there's likely to be a mismatch in data of ERP, the data of e-invoices uploaded at the portal, and the data which you are giving in the VAT return. All these three will be different, and a proper reconciliation will be required. And this will be a mammoth effort where a large number of invoices are there in your case. So please be prepared for that. And in some cases, in some of our clients in KSA for who we are doing the integration, invoice integration, we have seen that multiple invoice generation systems are there. I'm not talking about e-invoicing. I'm talking about the normal invoice generation in the physical format or the PDF format. And there are multiple systems. Some legacy systems are there. Some new systems are there. So multiple invoice generation systems are there, and this will further complicate matters. In phase-wise implementation, few people that I talked to in KSA were saying, since it's a phased implementation, we'll go phase-wise. That is going to be very problematic. Do not think the government, for its own purposes, has implemented it phase-wise. We as a company should not go for phase-wise implementation. It is a complete package. Phase-wise implementation will bring many challenges. Like it will be, besides other things, besides complications, etc., it will be costlier because you're preparing for phase 1 separately, you're preparing for phase 2 separately. It will require more time and effort of your staff also. That will again be problematic. And it will definitely create more problems. And it is not recommended. And even otherwise, sometimes maybe problems may be there, and if you are going with a vendor for the first phase and there are problems, then you have to shift to the other vendor for phase 2. So initially just test your software provider, the e-solution, the e-invoice solution provider, whether he has the capability of sailing you through both the phases. If he does your work for the first phase and the second phase you face problems, probably again that it will be costlier and it will take much more time also. So please be very careful about that. And other things, the invoice sequence. Presently, as you are aware, we are using multiple invoice sequences across various stores or the branches that we have. In the e-invoicing regime, we have heard that each invoicing solution can have only one invoice sequence. Is this problem being faced by you, and whether this is a challenge? Let us park this question and take it up in the FAQ section. I'm not answering that right now. And in the chat box, you can answer whether this is a problem for you or not. Multiple sequence of invoices. Then invoice modification, cancellation, or deletion. Presently, they can be modified, cancelled, or deleted. But in the new regime, it is not allowed. You have to issue a credit or a debit note for any cancellation or deletion of invoices. Then again, I think it's a common practice even in India or in KSA or for any other country for that matter. These marketing people to meet their month-end targets, quarter-end targets, they issue invoices after the end of the relevant period, month or the quarter, and that goes on. And even the current month invoices are being issued. That will not be possible in the new regime. Why? because there will be real-time reporting of tax invoices. You will not be able to dispatch the material unless and until you've uploaded the e-invoice. So that will be there. And the next invoice cannot be issued unless the previous day's invoice has been issued. And real-time reporting for tax invoices and reporting of in 24 hours of the simplified tax invoices. So backdate invoices you will not be able to issue. So just tell your marketing people also. So this change is not just a technological change, just not a legal change. It will require changes even in the business practices. You have to inform your other departments also. This new regime is coming, and obviously this will be more. You'll be able to see more of it in the second phase, because at that time the invoices will have to be uploaded. In the first phase, probably this can continue for a while. And other issues like advance payment or deemed supplies, paying VAT on these. Current business practices that we are manually handling that and paying the tax with the VAT return. In the e-invoicing regime, a separate e-invoice will have to be issued for these. In industry-specific challenges, in the case of these things like Hindustan Unilever or Nestle, these people are sending, they have multi-product companies, they're sending these kind of vans, and they contain so many items of theirs. And when they go to a retailer, a small shop, an invoice is not prepared in advance. Because they don't know what will he be purchasing, how many perks will it be purchasing, or how many other chocolates, or how many milk packets, or how many curd packets it will be purchasing. So there it is issued, and at that time a proper invoice with a QR code is to be issued, and that has to be uploaded immediately, because for a B2B invoice, if it is a VAT registered dealer, it is to be instantaneous. So that may be a challenge, because the company, when he starts the van, the driver, he does not get the invoice. Invoice is issued at the place where the material is delivered. And if a proper invoice is made first, and later on he says, no, I do not want this quantity. I want, instead of 10 per chocolates, I want just 5. So in that case, a debit note will have to be raised. So all these issues will be there. Similarly, for companies like PepsiCo, etc., this problem is there. For 7-Up, these number of crates are there. For Pepsi, these number of crates are there. If a proper invoice is issued in the beginning, and later on he says, no, I want a different quantity, or Lay's chips, I do not want, or whatever. So a debit note will have to be issued in that case. So this is again a challenge. And you have to prepare yourself for this also, because Zatka for a B2B invoice requires immediate uploading before delivery of the material. So please take care of this. Similarly, these specific industry challenges in EPC companies or road construction companies like this, it's a standard practice that in the various categories they show cumulative till last month, the current month, and the cumulative current month up to current month total. But there is no option to show all these details in the e-invoice. There's a normal amount, taxable amount, tax, and the total amount, etc. You are not able to show all these last month up till last month and current month and total. There is no option. How will you show these things? And similarly, negative values, the recoveries of the advance payment, recovery of the deferred advance payment, which is to be reduced from the gross invoice amount. What to do about that? Presently, there is no field which can have a negative value as per the Zatka guidelines that have been issued, the field validations that have been provided. In fact, we'll be getting in touch with Zatka for this, that these should be allowed. Otherwise, how will we show them in the invoice? So these problems are there. And when we talk about any other change, it's fine, doesn't matter. even if you delay it by some days or weeks, probably some fines or penalties will be there, and you can do away with that. You can go ahead with that. When we talk about e-invoicing, it will affect our business continuity. You cannot afford to tell your director or managing director or the vice president that material cannot be dispatched today because we are not ready for e-invoicing. Just imagine on the 4th of December 2021, this is the situation that your service provider says, sir, there is some problem. We will take another 7 days to start generating the invoices in the electronic format. When the second phase comes, we cannot upload the invoices as of now. It will take another 10-15 days. Can we afford to do that? Nobody will listen to you. Business cannot stop. It will result in destruction of business, which no one can afford to do that. That is why it is so very important. Besides the other penalties, etc., that will follow, because this is a normal invoice will not be treated as an invoice. We have to have an e-invoice where it is required. So we must be sufficiently ready in advance. Should be ready sufficiently in advance. Requisites of a good solution. Let us talk about what a good solution should contain. It should be capable of real-time upload of invoices and get back the validated invoices from that kind of time. It should be capable of managing large volumes. It should be scalable, flexible, and user-friendly as well. It should not be something complicated which you find difficult to understand. So that is very important. And the provider should have an experience of integrating with APIs. Real-time upload of simplified tax invoices is also recommended after validation, even though it is not mandatory. As you are aware, at simplified tax invoices, you'll get 24 hours to upload the data. But when you upload the data, and if there is some problems in the data, some issues are there, or later on you give the physical invoice to the party, and later on it says, no, I do not want this, you have to make some changes, some validations are there. So it is good to upload even the simplified tax invoices, and if there is any change, a debit note or a credit note is to be issued. So otherwise there may be validation issues at the time of upload later on. System should be capable, or the invoice facility invoicing solution should have capability to provide you with prompt updates, because it is a new thing. Invoicing is new for KSA, or for that matter, anywhere in the world where it is introduced. Initial teething problems are there, initial glitches are there, and that is why the government also keeps on changing the data structure and the validations. And the solution should be such that it should be able to update the solution very promptly, very quickly. Otherwise, again, we will be stuck. And also, you should look available solutions, look around for the various solutions which are available, take demos, base pros and cons, and take a quick decision. That is very important, to take a quick decision. You can talk to your friends, your colleagues. They all may also be, because it's applicable to everybody. So even they may be, they may have already taken one solution, or they may have seen various solutions. Involve both your information technology and the domain teams, because it's a combination of the efforts, and both have to sit together to decide on the solution. And sometimes somebody may be coming out with a very cheap solution, and your mouth may be watering. Somebody is offering so many real, and he's offering at a fraction of the cost. Cheap is not always the best. Again, as I gave you the example, that in that case, maybe he may be capable of sailing you through in the first phase, but in the second phase, you may not be ready by the required time. It may take much longer, and he may not be technically capable of the second phase of XML generation. So you'll be in a tight corner. So please take care of that also. Go for a solution which will help you sail through in both the phases. Take into account the data security concerns. Data is very important. This is critical business data, and we must be very careful about what solution we are using. On-premise solution suits large corporates due to criticality of data, whereas cloud solutions are suitable for small taxpayers or those who need anytime, anywhere access. So you just decide for yourself which one you want to go with. And basically, it is, first of all, the e-invoicing application should be there. And obviously, PHWebtel are already ready with the e-invoicing application. Then there has to be integration with the ERP, SAP or Navision or whatever ERP you are using. And also in the second phase, there is integration with Zatka. So this is the basic components of the invoicing solution. So various things have to be done. And what are these? Conversion of invoice data in XML format, upload of invoice data at the Zatka portal, download of the e-invoice in XML format, saving QR code, etc. in the ERP, generation of invoice with QR code, and printing of PDF or paper invoice and sending it to the. Who will be doing all these things? You need a good solution like that of Webtel to help you in doing all these things. Webtel offering, if we talk about that, we have two models, as I told you. One is the on-premise solution on the local host. The other is the cloud-based solution, or the SaaS model. One is at local host is an on-premise solution, fully secure, particularly for people who want the data is very critical, with corporate, etc. And so the solution is in their own premises. Whereas the other people, smaller people, or the people who need anywhere, anytime access, the SaaS model is also there. Now let me show you some technical diagrams with integration with the ERPs. First option is the API option for the on-premise solution. This is how we will be integrating with SAP using REST APIs, using deployment of T-code and creation of Z tables, and that will be the responsibility of our team. And even if multiple invoicing systems are there, we are capable of doing this. Other option is of staging tables, where the data is being transferred to staging tables, and through Windows services, it is being used and used for e-invoicing. The other option is also of FTP. That option also we are offering. And also we have option of FTP with MIT, the mapping tool. So all these options are available, and the most suitable one, these are technical things, and I think the IT teams will understand these more. Finance people may not be much aware about that. IT teams will understand these more, and my team will definitely be telling you these things, explaining these things in much greater detail later on. And otherwise, we can have a separate session because the time will not permit me to go into greater details here. And reconciliation again is a big issue. So we also will have be having a reconciliation engine for auto reconciliation of invoices filed at the Zatka and the ERP. And you can check the various reports through web or the desktop application. So what will be the Webtel role? The technology will be, which I just not showed you in the various diagrams. And the uploading of data will be using APIs. Webtel will fetch the invoice data from ERP of the client, and we will upload a web solution and Zatka in the second phase. And we will get back the response from Zatka, and QR code obtained from the Zatka will be provided to the client's ERP for printing on the invoice. In brief, this is the solution. And if you want to have a sneak peek of the preview of the web application of the SaaS model, I'll show you that also. When we log into the portal, this kind of screen will be visible, where the home screen, masters, create invoice, etc. facilities are there on the left-hand side, as you can see. And here you can see the pendency. These are 25% invoices are pending, 75 are generated, how many overdue, etc. And the company details, the masters can be filled once by the admin user. Thereafter, the user can generate the invoice manually or can be imported through XLS files using the templates that we provide. And then we will give the option of printing the invoices and generating XML invoices, and which can be easily be downloaded like these. This is the XML format containing the hash function, which has been obtained from the Zatka portal. And on the right hand side is the PDF invoice, which will be generated from our solution. The PDF template can be customized according to your requirement. So what is the roadmap? How we have to proceed further? I think that will be a $1 billion question. Let us see. First of all, you have to see whether e-invoicing is applicable to you or not. And in most cases, the answer will be yes, because it is applicable to all the taxpayers. The next question is you have to understand the e-invoicing requirements. Some of them I've told you in today's webinar. Next will be you have to see the readiness to generate e-invoices. How ready we are, how ready our ERP systems are for this. Familiarize yourself with the e-invoicing requirements. Create awareness among your staff and ensure they're familiar with the solution. Ensure they are ready with well in time. Be aware of the statutory updates. And remember, it is a business critical application. So do not look at it in isolation. Look for the requirements as a whole. Phase 1 plus phase 2 is total e-invoicing. Also, when do we start this question? Immediately. You have to start early, but as of now, even if you start, things can be tackled. But with each passing day, it will be difficult to get ready. Start now. Total, it takes around 2-3 months, and each client has different environments. Deployment is not like plug and play. It's not that you just put on the thing and the invoice starts generation. Integration requires some time, effort, and it cannot be plug and play. And Zatka will provide a sandbox to test each solution before it can be deployed in the taxpayer's ERP or the accounting solution. It will take around 1 to 1.5 months for implementation, and another 1.5 months or 1 month for user acceptance testing. So we have barely 2 months ready to get ready now, as the time is not more than that. And proper user trainings are also required. Disaster recovery is also important. We have to ensure that disaster recovery solutions are also there. And once proper integration is done, there is not much to be done for phase 2. Only additional fields in data are required for e-invoice, and uploading it that is required. So if you take a consolidated approach and you get ready in the first phase itself, will not be much to be done in the second phase. And the credit of inputs will be available only if it's a proper invoice. So you have to see the preparedness of your vendors also. The people, the suppliers also, you have to see whether they are invoice ready. Otherwise, you may be losing input tax credit on the taxes on the purchases that you are paying presently. So, and you have to use the WebPill's e-invoicing solution for seamless integration with ERPs. And finally, I'd like to share with you that WebPill has a rich experience of e-invoicing in India for providing end-to-end solutions. And already we are working for several clients in KSA for e-invoicing. Let us recapitulate or for phase 1, because it's just staring in us in the phase. So what are the phase 1 requirements? So type of invoices and notes, generation of tax invoices and simplified tax invoices and the associated credit notes in the electronic format. Invoice debit credit note format, no specific format is there, but it has to be in electronic format. So I think again it is advisable the XML format or some PDF format where no changes can take place. Proper time stamping etc. is there, that is required. What will be the structure of the e-invoice? It must contain all the mandatory fields. It must comply with all the field level validations, that is the allowable values. So if some alphabets have to come in some field, only alphabets are allowed. If some numbers are allowed in some field, only numbers are allowed in that field. So that kind of validation is there. In compliance with the business rules assigned to conditional fields. So if you are using a particular field, though not mandatory, so you should comply with the business rules assigned to it. And time stamping is necessary. That's even in there in the first phase. Time stamping is should be there on the invoice, and you should not be able to change that. Data processing and security features, temper evidence mechanism for simplified tax invoices and notes. You have to ensure that the solution helps you, that there is no tampering, particularly of the simplified tax invoices. In data storage and archival, it is important to ensure that the solution helps you to export the generated invoices and associated notes into an external archival system. They may be there in your ERP, they may be there in your accounting package, but it has to be exported to an external archival system in a proper electronic format that I just now talked about that. And even the file name, they have specified that the file name should consist of the VAT registration number, invoice or notes, date of issue, time of issue, and the invoice reference number or invoice number. So all these requirements are of the phase 1 itself, and please ensure you are ready with this sufficiently in advance. Coming to the questions, are there any questions from the viewers? I can take those, or otherwise I'll go ahead with the FAQs that I've provided for you. Okay, I think as of now there are no questions, so you can write in the chat box. I'll take them thereafter. But let me take some very important questions which are there and which need to be answered. One is, can a different IRN or invoice reference number format be used for government issued invoices, Riyadh branch invoices, and other branch invoices? I think that's a very important question. And the answer to that is yes, according to paragraph 5B of Article 53 of the VAT implementing regulation, an invoice reference number must be visible on the invoice to identify the tax invoice. Regulation does not specify the format of this number. Taxpayers can use different formats for the IRN so long as it uniquely identifies the tax invoice. Is that clear? Otherwise, let me make it more clear for you. Then somebody asked me this question. It is prohibited to issue multiple invoice sequences for e-invoices. I have multiple branches across KSA, and each branch has its own invoice sequence. Am I required to unify invoice sequences across all my branches? That is, only one invoice sequence should be there for all my branches. Again, a very important question. And the answer to that, is anybody aware? If you are aware, then please write in the chat box. Obviously, in a few moments, I'll give the answer to that also. Okay, let me help you out with that. Please refer to the paragraph 2B of the article of controls, requirements, technical specifications, and procedural rules of the VAT implementing the provisions of the e-invoicing regulation. Invoice sequence mentioned within the prohibited functions above does not refer to the invoice reference number that identifies the tax invoice. It refers to the technical ability of the e-invoicing solution to issue invoices using multiple sequence counters. So they're referring to the ability of the e-invoicing solution to ensure that there is one series only. But when you are issuing the invoices and different branches are using different invoice series, that is still allowed. So again, I think that's a very important question, and a lot of inquiries were coming from the existing people also for whom we are working, or otherwise were also coming. So I wanted to share with you this question and the answer to that. So I can further explain the example of correct sequencing. So we have the e-invoicing system, and this is generating invoice in one series like this. This is the correct sequencing which is allowed. An example of prohibited sequencing is where this e-invoicing system is generating multiple sequences. So this is not allowed. Left in one, this is allowed. Right in one, this is not allowed. And another question, is there any data residency or data center legal requirement? Answer to that is yes, in accordance with the relevant regulations. In case a cloud invoicing solution or the data center is located outside the kingdom is being used, so that is allowed per se. But in that case, an extension or access to data must be available in the branch that is located in the kingdom, and it should allow access to all related records. Additionally, non-related regulations may apply to the taxpayer entity, such as National Cybersecurity Authority, National Data Management Office published laws, etc. So, in short, if data center requirement, etc., if somebody is having cloud computing and the data center is situated outside the kingdom, in that case, it is allowed, but an extension or access to that data should be allowed, available in the kingdom also. And how to ensure compliance of phase 1 requirements for simplified invoice? For simplified invoice, QR code is a must. Even if you are printing it on a paper invoice, you must have a digital copy of the same. Next, does my e-invoicing solution need to be cloud-based to be able to implement e-invoicing? That's not necessary. It can be cloud-based or it can be on-premise as per your convenience, as per your security concerns, as per your convenience, as per the pricing that you can spend, the amount of pricing of the product. It depends on all that. Again, can we have some questions on the chat box? Otherwise, I'll proceed with my questions. And it's almost time. I'll take a few more questions. Are VAT registered individuals subject to invoices issuance? Because individuals generally they are small businesses, but even invoicing is applicable to them also, even if they are VAT registered individuals. Our non-resident taxpayers are exempt. The next question is, what are the invoice requirements for phase 1? We've already seen, but again, let us recapitulate. For simplified tax invoices and the notes, mandatory QR code must be there. And for tax invoices, QR code is mandatory in phase 1. There's no specific file format, as I told you. And it must be issued from an invoice, electronic invoice system, meeting ZATCA's requirements. And storage facility should be there. How can I share my invoice with the buyer or the customer? A printed copy of the tax or the simplified invoice or the related notes and which has been generated electronically must be provided to the customer. Upon agreement between both the parties, the simplified invoice or the note which has been generated electronically may be shared with the customers in its electronic format or any other human readable format. So the ZATCA is giving you flexibility in this regard. You may provide in the required format. As of now, there is not specification regarding this. Do I need to integrate my invoicing system with ZATCA on December 4, 2021? That's not required, but let us get ready for that. Will there be any changes to VAT declaration process after the enforcement of invoices? No, there will not be any changes to the VAT filing process. How do I know about the phase 2 wave? It will be informed to you well in advance, at least 6 months in advance. Don't worry about that. And the enforcement date will obviously from 1st January 2023 for the people who have been who will be notified for the phase, first wave in the phase 2. The e-invoice is applicable in the case of exports or imports. For exports, it's applicable. For imports, it's not required. After issuing and sharing an e-invoice with the client or buyer, can seller modify or cancel the invoice if it contains any error? No changes can be done once it has been shared with the buyer. No changes can be made. A debit or the credit note linked to the original invoice must be issued or generated to modify or cancel the generated invoice. So that was all I wanted to share with you. Again, we can take a moment if you have any queries on the session or any other queries. If you have, I'll be happy to answer that. And for further queries, any clarifications, or for demos of e-invoicing solution of WebPal, I will request you to send a mail at this email ID, or this number is there, mobile number is there, where you can contact us, and we'll be ready to help you, ready to serve you. And already we are doing e-invoicing work for many of our clients, and they are very happy with our approach, because we have a very good experience of e-invoicing, particularly of India. And already more than 2 years have passed, and successfully, in fact, in India, there are other applications like e-Waybill also together with in e-invoicing, and we are handling that for over 250 clients, big corporates. We are already handling that. And in KSA also, every day we are receiving so many queries, inquiries, and many orders are being finalized for invoicing, because time is very short. Please take a decision. I would request you to go for solutions. You see the various solutions, get yourself satisfied, and please go ahead. There's not much time. With each passing day, it will be difficult for you to reach the deadline of 4th December 2021. And again, finally, I would request you, I would reiterate that please go for a unified approach. Do not think of e-invoicing phase-wise. That is for the convenience of the government, Zatka. But for we as users, as corporates, as tax professionals, we should go for a unified approach, whereby we are ready for even integration with Zatka and generation of invoice in XML format. And corporates have to be ready, and even professionals, the chartered accountants and other professionals who are handling the work of the corporates, you have to get ready. You have to ensure that your clients get ready, because if they are not ready in time, they will face so many problems. The penalties will be leviable on them, and then they will come to you running after you. So, though you are directly not connected with e-invoicing, but it is a system requirement, it is a legal requirement, and that is why you should ensure that your clients are ready. So professionals, a request to you also, please see that all your clients are ready well in time. You can help them out. You can refer WebPal to them so that they are able to get ready in time. So that was all I wanted to share with you. And on the screen, the numbers are there already. For a few moments, I'll let the screen remain there, and the email ID remain there. And this is our website also. And we'll be happy to receive emails and phone calls from you to help you further. Thank you so much for a very patient hearing. Thank you so much.